Hola e bienvenido. Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan Lester, and this is episode 36 of the Wolves Report, where I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Tyler and Mark Knock. We were supposed to have Ben Husband, so if you've tuned in for Ben, apologies. Ben had something far more important than a podcast to do. Hopefully we'll get him on next week. But yes, hope to see Ben soon. Interesting show today. The group chats, social media, it's been a bit crazy the last few days, and I'm sure you all know why. Today, we're going to talk about the Fulham game. We're going to talk about Matheus Nunes, the spending spree that's appeared from nowhere. Have we had investment? Taking your questions and looking ahead to Spurs. As always, the show is recorded live. Reason for that is it's great to have the interactions. You can comment via YouTube. You can comment via Facebook. If the comments are clean and reasonable, even if they're not, we'll probably get them on the show. We won't be able to read them out, all of them, but we get them on the bottom of the screen and get some interaction. So thank you for watching and being part of the show. Let's take a reality check, take a step back a few days. Tyler, we went to the Fulham game together. Mixed feelings coming out of the ground. I'd like your take on the Fulham game.
Do we have to? Can we not just talk about Nunes for an hour?
We've got to do this first, mate. Run in order.
I don't know. It's one of those games you're sort of coming away from a bit frustrated, I think was my main emotion. I don't think we did enough to win the football game. I thought Fulham came, they were well organised. Two solid centre midfielders that put a bit of a blocker on us, I thought. If we score one of the early chances, it's a cliche. I think we go on and win the game quite comfortably. They're not just chances, are they? I mean, they're gilt-edged. The Neto one, I keep watching it back and I just don't know why he's not just passed it into the net first time. Gibbs White has to score early in the second half. You can't miss from there either. So they're two gilt-edged chances. I thought Wang couldn't do much more with his. He was played through. The angle was tight. He did what he could. But I think I was just a bit frustrated. Like I said, I thought when we played it quickly, they couldn't live with us. When we won the ball back, that first 50 minutes, we pinged it, one-touch football, they couldn't live with us. And then I felt after that, we were far too laboured on the ball. I thought the centre-backs probably had too many touches. It was going sort of back and sidewards a lot again. And that was my frustration, really. And then we almost contrived to lose the game like we did at Leeds, didn't we? Shocking tackle from Ait-Nouri. He's becoming a bit of a liability at left back, isn't he? Let's be honest. Great save from Sarr, and I suppose at the end of the day, you take your point, you move on. We're off the mark, on to the next game. But yeah, I still think there's more to come from this side, and obviously we're going to come on to it, but hopefully with the new additions, that will only help us.
I mean, I think we're quite on the same page with that. It was, for me, and I know it's 1 point from two games where we were really targeting probably 4 or 6 points, especially if we'd have had a forward, a striker number 9 in the team. But I can see progress. I like it. I mean, and I think over those first two games, the goals we've conceded or chance we've conceded have been self-inflicted, because Collins and Kilman, for me, have looked pretty good in those games. Nocky, yeah. What was your take on the Fulham game?
Yeah, similar to what Chris says, really. I think first 15 minutes, if we get that goal, we probably take the game away from them. A couple of great through balls from Podence. I agree with Wang. He was looking for an option. He looked to be looking up. I think it was the same with Neto when he went through. He's looking for someone, but we've been missing that number 9 for a while now, haven't we? And there was just no one in the box to finish those opportunities off. The disappointing thing for me was, although we did knock the ball around well, we did create space. One shot on goal against a newly promoted team who were very open. I thought they were very, very open. It was very easy to break their lines. I thought they defended very high up the pitch and gave us opportunities to drop in behind. And we only managed one shot on goal. So that's a huge concern for me. And I don't think it's a case of we're not creating those opportunities, because I think we are, but we've just got 3 players up front who were very fluid in what they were doing. But sometimes you just need a big unit to stand there and just be in the right area to pick up those second balls and those second chances, because we just haven't got anyone who just stays static in that area and tries to give us something to feed off. And hopefully we will address that in the next week or so, or we get Raul back. But I thought generally the performance wasn't poor. I thought we played well. I thought we did okay, but I couldn't have complained if we'd have lost the game, because Fulham had more shots on goal than we did, and of course they had the penalty as well. So yeah, disappointed that we didn't get something out of the game. But if you can't win the game, don't lose it. And we managed to get ourselves a point, and we're off the mark, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I know I keep saying I can see the plan, and I know people aren't that, but am I just alone in that? We can see the back four, a solid foundation already. We look as stable as we did with the back five for me. I know we've played two teams we expect to be in the bottom third, but building from the back, Jose Sarr didn't really have a lot to do on Saturday. The one thing he had to do, he did fantastically well. Yes, it wasn't a brilliant penalty, but you've got to go the right way. He's thumped that. He's took one in the rib cage. It's a great save. Any penalty save's a great save if you read it. So I can see the plan for me. I can see, looking forward, I can see what they're trying to build. And that core, or that middle, Neves just sat in front. I thought he didn't do much wrong. Kilman, Collins, Sarr. For me, building that foundation, it looks good. It's what we need to do in front of it to create the chances. Would you agree with that?
The difference is last season we weren't even fashioning those chances, were we? I mean, we're not finishing them off at the moment. We know why we're not finishing them off, because we're putting square pegs in round holes in terms of the striking positions. But we are looking more fluid and we're looking more attacking, which we were all crying out for last season. I thought defensively, Collins and Kilman looked imperious for me. I completely agree with Aït-Nouri. There's a lot of cracks kind of creeping in his performances lately, although he's a very talented player. There is mistakes there. But I think the way that we ping the ball around, the way that we look more exciting, it was more pleasing on the eye than we've seen in recent games. I'm all for that. But of course, the concern is we haven't won a game since we played Aston Villa, and that's what, is it 1 win in 14 or something like that? So whichever way you butter it up, we need to start winning football matches.
Absolutely. I mean, we can take those stats looking back to last season, but I think this is a beginning of a new era. I'm going to just jump in with a comment there. It's made me smile. Ashley Bentley has said, Fulham summary for you lads. If we have number 9, we're winning that game. Can we talk about Nunes, please? Yes, we're going to definitely get... Literally, honestly, guys, before the show, everyone just wants to talk about Nunes and forget about the Fulham game, but we need to talk about that. I want to talk about the weaknesses, the strengths, and going forward. We've got an hour or so just to blast about Nunes. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Thanks for your comment, Ashley, and everyone else's comments so far. Make a really good point, Knocker. We're already, you know what? It's not free-flowing and fully exciting, but we're already, I mean, I'm a purist bore. If anyone that reads my tweets or talks to me about football, 60% for me, possession. If they haven't got it, they can't have. The more we've got the ball, the less chances they're going to create. And that's certainly been the case. Both games, I think we had 61% at Leeds and 60% on Saturday, there or thereabouts on that. So for me, that's an improvement. We look less vulnerable.
On that though, Ryan, do you not agree it's very safe possession?
It is.
Most of the possession, mate, is between the two centre-backs, passing it side to side. It is safe possession. It is. Doctor said, we've almost contrived to lose 2 football matches to 2 teams that we think might finish below us. So I agree with you. If you're in control of football, the opposition obviously can't score. I just think I would like to see that slight more intent where there was a couple of times Collins did it and Max did it where, you know, they take the ball forward.
And that was exciting. Great to see.
That's what I'd like to see more of. The safe option. Whenever we get a throw in, it's only a little thing, but we always go backwards, back to the centre-backs. And that's the plan, obviously, of what he wants them to do, which is fine. I still don't necessarily think we create enough chances in relation to that amount of possession that we have. That's my opinion. I think it's a very safe way of having the ball, to be honest. But that would be me being a bit critical, I suppose.
I mean, in teams...
Sorry, right. Is possession always a good thing, though? I mean, I remember Celtic beat Barcelona with 8% possession. Sometimes, if you've always got the ball, you're giving the opposition a chance to really get themselves back into position and give themselves
exactly.
Which Fulham would try and use. Sometimes you don't.
But you could say that about Barcelona and overall what they did when they started tiki-taka.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're not Barcelona, are we? I mean, sometimes
not yet.
you just shoot the ball and you just break through.
Give it 3 months, Doctor.
And then Neves plays that ball into Podence. I mean, the chances we had came from opportunities, one in midfield, one through, way, and you're in behind them. That's sometimes you can get a little bit too caught up with possession stats. It's not about having the ball; it's about how you use the ball. And if, like Chris says, if we're just knocking it around the back, keeping it nice and safe, they're in their system, they're in their pattern. You're not going to break them down from that. Sometimes you just want them to come onto you. You win the ball back, and then 2 passes, you can be there. Right? That's maybe a little bit. We get a bit carried away on possession, I think.
Just in terms of, you made a really good point there, and some of the stats I've been reading. There's a Twitter page called, I think it's called The Other 14. It knocks out the big 6 and then gives you the stats on the individual players. It's a really good Twitter page. And I think Nathan Collins and Kilman were 2 of the highest ball carriers of yards carried going forward. from teams outside the top 6. For me, that's a fantastic stat. And when you've got a 9 in there, and if you add Matheus Nunes in there that can carry the ball, with your number 9, other players around, the spaces that are going to be open for Wolves, this possession will then turn into chances. Well, that's my interpretation of seeing it. But the fact now we've got 2 centre-backs that are happy to push it past the forward and take it into space, that's going to draw another man on. It'll another free man. He'll get dragged out of position, so it'll be someone else up there. And then not having a sweeper and having a number 10 in the team as well. For me, I can see the plan. I know I keep repeating it. We might lose on Saturday, but I can see the plan. I can see what we're trying to do. You could see it in pre-season. And in some of those games, it looked pretty good. I thought we were pretty good against Sporting, particularly in the first half. But I can see the plan. Again, though, as Ashley said, if you haven't got a number 9, and you start the season without one, no matter how much possession you have, it's hard. If you don't have the goal scorer, it's hard. But let's talk about the chances we missed. I know you mentioned it there, Tyler. Wolves should have scored. Neto, I think Hwang was offside though. I think he's first one. Regardless though, he should be hitting the target. But those 2 quick early balls over the top down the channel, they weren't just like hoops. They were lovely passes over the top that fell into the space. I think Wolves were getting a lot of joy on that side, and then that fullback sort of dropped in a bit. But on another day, most days, you're winning that game, aren't you, Knocker?
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, if we get the first goal, I think Fulham come out a little bit more, and we have more opportunities to play those balls in behind. But as we said, we've still only managed 1 shot on goal, regardless of how many chances we've created. So yeah, you can say maybe we win the game if we get that opening goal, but 1 shot on goal against a promoted team isn't good enough. So we need to be more dangerous in front of goal. And the Neto one, I agree. I find that really confusing. He didn't take that first time.
I think he surprised himself. I think the keeper and the defender sort of managed to spill it between them, and then I think his first touch was just a bit hard. I think some of the camera angles you've seen on the TV aren't actually justice for where the chance really was, because he pushed it away from himself. So it's probably a bad first touch that's cost him.
He did really well to get there. I'm not knocking him for that at all, but I think if he goes early, he gives himself more of an opportunity, is the point I'm making. But I think we've got dangerous players from those positions, but I don't think we've got a natural goal scorer.
He's not in form.
No,
he's obviously form there, is there?
But they're not going to, Podence, Neto, I don't see any point that they get you more than 7 or 8 goals a season. And from the wide attacking positions, you're looking for a little bit more than that. You're wanting double figures from them, and then obviously maybe 10 to 15 from your central striker. So they'll create us opportunities, but I don't think they're natural finishers. That may improve. They're both still young, they're still developing, and obviously with the quality that we're hopefully bringing in behind them, it gives us more of an opportunity to exploit that. But until we get that number 9 position sorted, then I don't see it improving.
Just in defence of those possession stats, Are they sort of been massaged a bit more than they would be usually, because we don't have that man in the box that we would? Because I know the manager seems to think now we want to put more balls in the box, but if you haven't got the number 9 in the box, you're going to turn back, aren't you? You're not going to be whipping crosses in for Hwang to head home, because it's not going to happen. So are we being more cautious in possession because there isn't a target man or a number 9 to feed that chance to, Tyler?
Yeah, good question. I'd say yes. But then I think we've been cautious in possession for probably 2 years, so I don't necessarily agree with it. Like you said, you can see a clear pattern and style of play that he's trying to implement. You can see it. It's obvious for all to see. He's now being backed, it looks like, with the personnel to do it. So hopefully, there should be an improvement. I would knock. I think if that's a Neto in form or anyone in form, they just take that first time and they put it in the empty net. I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. So you might be right, Ryan. Yeah, we tend to sort of jog to the halfway line, have a look up. If there's lifted on, we'll just come back and start again and look for that movement and that pattern of play. So you're both dead right. Without that pivot, that number 9, that Mitrovic type player, yeah, he wasn't great for Fulham, but he was clearly a focal point for them. And when they looked up, it was him that they were looking for, and we didn't have that on Saturday. And yeah, maybe you are right. Maybe that's why we might be just a bit conservative at the moment, because it'd be nice to be fully let off the leash, wouldn't it, and see what these players can do. You
make a really good point there. I'd like to talk about Mitrovic, because I watched when I was in Leeds last week with Knocker, and we watched I watched some of the Liverpool game before the game. Mitrovic ruined Liverpool that day. He bullied them. He gave like one of the best centre-backs in the world a real hard game. He's come to Molineux and he's not had a sniff. What does that say about our centre-backs? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if we'd have had Mitrovic on Saturday, I think Wolves would have won. He's a horrible player to play against. He's strong. He probably should have got sent off with his clash with Gibbs White. 2 bookables in there for me. But we've seen some of the decisions over the week. Again, nothing changes. But we have to give credit to Collins, 6'4" plus, Kilman, 6'4" plus, 2 big, strong footballing centre-backs who not only can play football, they can defend. Mitrovic you won't get much of a tougher physical challenge in the Premier League. Maybe Darwin at Liverpool, he's a horror show as well. He's going to be horrible to play against. But when you're playing against someone like that, you need proper centre-backs to manage them, and you have to give credit to those guys. This guy got 40 goals last year, 40 championship goals plus, and they didn't give him a sniff. So credit to the centre-backs, because I think Mitrovic is a good player.
Well, yeah, let's be honest, Ron. Whenever we've come up against him before, he's murdered us, basically. He has. He's always caused us problems. I think he didn't on Saturday. They marshalled him superbly, I thought.
We played him really well. I mean, I remember the year we got promoted and we went to Craven Cottage and he pinned Cody. Every time they got forward, he pinned him, span off him, out-muscled him, and he was in behind. And I thought Collins and Kilman just gave him enough space because they knew he wasn't going to hurt them in terms of pace, and then they got tight when they needed to. They dropped off when they needed to.
Very good,
A little bit as well. So it was a very mature performance. And it shows you that you don't have to have 3 centre-backs to defend against that kind of team. You can do it with a 2 if they're the right 2.
And I think with Collins, I think everyone's sorry, they forget he's 21 years old.
Yeah.
He looks like a 27, 28-year-old centre-back that's been doing it. He's 21, Kilman's 23, 24. The future's bright, isn't it, if they're your 2 centre-backs for the next few years?
Absolutely. I'm going to try and get as many comments as I can involved and talk about it a little bit, because I think it really helps with this sort of interaction and flow of the show. Hungry Like the Wolf, a regular contributor, and Mickey Taker out of us, which we always appreciate. What's disappointing is the squad depth has stopped us taking 6 points at the start of the season. Those could mean the difference between Europa or Conference League or Europa League qualification at the end of the season. Now, we might sound ungrateful moaning about that, but I totally agree. With the players like Matheus Nunes, if that all comes off today, which it should, and potentially another right back, I would imagine, on top of that, we really should have got a striker in before. And we've repeating ourselves from last week, but it's really hard to understand letting Fabio go, who I think would have flourished in this system, to be honest. I'm not sure if he'd have got in ahead of Raul, but he's a footballer and he wants to play one touch, a link at the edge of the box with attacking players. So for me, I agree with Hungry Like the Wolf there. I think just one striker would have made the difference in those 2 games. We might not have done, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's a really valid point. Thank you for your comments. You mentioned earlier on, I can't remember which one of you 2 was, about Ait-Nouri. I've been Ait-Nouri's biggest sort of clapper for quite a while now. That kid is obscenely talented and he's a wonderful watch. However, it's been a little bit tough for him these opening 2 games. And I think he's better than the 2 mistakes he's made. He didn't make a mistake all pre-season. He defended well. He looked quick. He looked confident. His distribution was good. We thought we had the real deal. However, if you make a mistake in the Premier League, it usually ends in a goal. And he's made 2 mistakes and it ended in 1 goal. And Jose Sarr sort of saved his blushes. So, interesting one. I'm also a massive Semedo fan. I don't think Semedo's going to be match fit to do 90 minutes, but just on Ait-Nouri, I don't really want to punish him because I think there's a tremendous talent there. But how long can you keep letting them make 1 mistake a game? And how long until Nelson Semedo's fit do you put Johnny back to left back and Semedo at right back? Knocker.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ait-Nouri. I think he's going to be a very, very good footballer, have a very good career. But I think at this moment in time, if everybody's fit, I'd switch Semedo to right back. I'd put Johnny at left back. And Ait-Nouri's your backup at the moment. I think we're probably talking 5-6 games before we can get in that position, purely because he's not really had a pre-season, has he? So he's not fit. It's going to take time to be able to work him back to full fitness. So I like him. He will develop. He will be better. And I think in the not too distant future, we're going to be knocking back some very big offers for him. But at this moment in time, I think Semedo and Johnny are better options. And for me, if Semedo had stayed fit last season, I think he'd be knocking on the door for player of the season. So I thought he had a really good year.
Yeah, Semedo came alive last year. And let's not forget, before anyone says Semedo's a wing-back, well, he did play for Barcelona behind Lionel Messi, and Messi's not known for his tracking back when he cuts in from the right-hand side. So I think Semedo's more than capable. And I know it was only like 15, 20 minutes at the end, but Semedo came on and he was like, wow, there he is, gliding forward with the ball like he's done before. And I think in an attacking team like Wolves should be now, when these other players come in, it'll suit him even more. So, yeah,
is that Son's going to be peeling off to those wide positions when we play Spurs, and he's going to be looking at people like Ait-Nouri. And I think, although Ait-Nouri, I like him going forward, I do think he's culpable defensively, and you want someone with a little bit more pace, which I think Semedo's got. So I can see Son pulling out to Semedo's side, and if you've got Semedo in that position, I think he's more likely to live with him. Although I do think Ait-Nouri's a very good player, and he controlled Salah last season, didn't he? So
that's
patch. I don't know.
That's a really good point, because in those couple of games, he faced Raheem Sterling at Man City, and he'd faced Salah at Molineux. And I don't really call them really sort of skinning him. He dealt with them really, really well. So when he's at full concentration and he's not being rash or casual, there's a really good defender in there. But he's one of those players that if you're a little bit casual, then he's going to get punished, and we were nearly punished twice. So I don't think Semedo will be fit. I think he'll be fit to start the game at Spurs, but let's see. Tyler, just your quick take on Ait-Nouri.
Yeah, I use the word liability, and it's probably a bit harsh, but you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. You can't make mistakes at this level and keep getting away with it. You do become a bit of a liability, and opposing managers will start to target you. I mean, I was right in line. You could see he was going to slide in 5 minutes before he did. You could see it coming from a mile off, and it's just naive defending, isn't it? They did get lucky because the pass was actually deflected through, and it changed the path to that guy that was running onto it. But you've got to stay on your feet, haven't you? You can't go diving in, especially in the world we're in now with VAR, where nothing gets missed. It's very basic. And you know, I know Saab was at fault at Leeds as well, but Saar doesn't have to make that save if Ait-Nouri deals with it. So for me, he's out the team as quickly as he can be, if I'm being brutally honest. And I'll put Johnny at left back, and I'll put Nelson at right back.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. When they're all fit, I think that. And I think this also highlights as well that we've only got 3 first-team fullbacks. Bueno is very talented. For me, he's like Ait-Nouri, but probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. Very, very kind on the eye. Great going forward, beating a man. Defensively, I'm not so sure what we're seeing there yet. So let's see. But I think this highlights the need for another fullback, particularly with the 5 subs and how energetic our fullbacks are going to be in the game. Moving on to other highlights in the game. Well, one that sort of really split fans, and we always talk about every week, and it's an interesting one. Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't recall anyone else applying themselves better than Morgan did that game. I thought his application and effort was nothing short of outstanding. I expect the basics of when you're a footballer to try hard, but I think he went even harder. The effort was fantastic, and you have to praise that, the tracking back. I would say one of the times he tracked back was he was tracking back when he'd lost the ball, so he was recovering from his own mistake. And it was great to see the desire. I was really pleasing. However, football-wise, and the fans are really split on this, I didn't see much. I saw in the second half trying a lot of tricks and flicks. Most of them failed. I think they all did. And one time in the first half, he dropped the shoulder, beat a man, and then went to try and beat another man when he should have passed it. I'm really split because there's clearly talent, but I'm not sure about the decision making. Tyler, what was your take on Gibbs-White's game?
Yeah, I agree with you, really. And it's such fine margins, isn't it? If he scores that goal, we probably win the game. He's probably man of the match, and he's the local hero, isn't he? You know, it's such a fine margin. Totally agree with you. He totally worked his nuts off. You couldn't fault his application whatsoever. I've been saying it, and I'm going to say it again. Similar to you, Ryan, I still think his best position is centrally. There were times in the second half where he picked the ball up in the centre of the pitch, he turned, he drove, a bit like the Mitrovic fouls. That was a perfect example. He can do that from the central position. I just think out wide, it's probably not where he's best suited. And I don't feel sorry for him because that's a bit much, but I just want to be seen given that opportunity in a bit of a free role in a number 10, where I think he can maybe dictate the game a bit more. At Leeds, he came inside, he was looking for it, he was getting frustrated when players weren't passing it to him. So I think that will come as well. I think all round it was a decent display. I don't think he was any better or worse than Neto or Podence, really, creative-wise. I know Podence put the 2 great balls through, but after that, he was anonymous. I think it was a 7 out of 10 performance. I think just lacking that bit of guile and creativity, like you say, really.
The application was fantastic, but you've hit the nail on the head there. And I know Podence was probably Wolves' weakest player, but what you have to say about Podence is he created 2 goal-scoring opportunities. So despite being put, Knocker's trying not to laugh because his little lads put all his little girls trying to give him a wolf teddy, and it is proper amusing me. What I don't understand is, well, I do understand it, but Podence had a poor game, yet he created 2 chances. Yet we're saying Gibbs White played better, but he created nothing. Now, between them, if you'd have put Podence's creativity with Morgan Gibbs White's application, they would have had a really good game between them.
I don't think he was any better. I'm just saying he wasn't better or worse, potentially. I mean, after Podence did them 2 balls, he might as well have gone home because he literally did nothing.
I agree, but it's your job in the number 10 to create, and he did on those terms. He did his job. Yes, it was a poor game, but if you create 2 goal scoring chances in a game, then you've done something well, haven't you?
I think there's a massive decision around Gibbs White, isn't there? Because he wants to play football, and rightly so. At his age, he should be playing football. For me, if everybody's fit and we bring in a number 9, he doesn't get into our best 11. That's just my opinion at this moment in time. I can still see someone like an Everton coming in for him, especially if they're losing. Then there's a decision to make because the lad wants to play. He hasn't signed a new contract yet, which I think speaks volumes for what he wants. And if he's not going to play and he doesn't get in our best 11, then, do you take the money for him now while the valuation's still high? If he stays, happy days, we'll all back him. But there's a bit of me that thinks that it's going to end sour one way or another. I just don't see him staying in the Wolves team. And if you keep him in over players like Guedes, or you keep Podence out, or even an Adama Traore, if he stays, the fans are going to start getting a little bit wound up about that if he's not scoring or creating on a regular basis. And you can see all the opportunity he had. That has to go in. I don't care if it's coming across quickly. You've got to be able to adjust to that at this level. And I'd say the same about any Wolves player if they'd have missed that chance. So I think there's a very, very big decision to make in the next couple of weeks.
What's interesting for me is we hadn't heard it before. I think it was last week. Bruno alluded to the fact, well, you sign or you go. I mean, he wasn't quite as brutal as that, but he actually said we can't. I think the way he put it is we can't afford to have another Traore situation when we potentially lose a player for free. That kind of suggests Traore might stay, which I'll be delighted with because it's a great option on the bench if we give him the ball, because we came on and we didn't give him the ball at all. But it kind of suggests to me that Wolves and Morgan know where they're at, that if he doesn't sign, he's going to go. And I just feel, although his application was really good, I still think his future's away from Wolves, because if he's not signing now, what's going to change? And if hopefully Nunes comes and Jimenez is fit and there's another forward, boys, just a quick question, yes or no? Does Gibbs White get in Wolves' best 11? No. So
not at the moment, no.
So if that's the case, then he's not going to be happy. So, I mean, the Everton one with obviously Kevin Thelwell there, a couple of other Wolves, Cody's there, Vinagra's there. I think there's another member of sort of senior scouting sort of network. He's there as well. So there's definitely a Wolves connection. Maybe if Gordon goes to Chelsea for what's said to be something like 40 or 50 million, Gibbs White might go the other way. Who knows? That we talked about that in the group chat, and that kind of, you put 2 and 2, and that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, but I would, before, if anything happens, I'd like to see Podence go wide and Gibbs White come in the 10, because as much as I've criticised Gibbs White, I want the best of Wolves. And if he goes in the 10, smashes it, links with Jimenez, fantastic. We've got a player on our hands. Not seeing enough creativity yet, though. But even if you're wide, I still want you to create something. And I've not seen him really beat a man or create an opportunity for an opponent yet. I might be being harsh, but 2 games in against teams who said we're in the bottom third, and I'm not seeing him impact the game in a creative way. Might get shot down for that, but I'm just saying what I see. In terms of the other players on the pitch, it was probably a day to forget, really, for probably the 3 behind Hwang, and probably Hwang as well. I thought Hwang started off okay, but as you guys said, we kind of died off a bit in the second half, sort of run out of ideas. We give Adama the ball, not enough for me. I want Adama, but equally, what I would say is, as soon as after Sarr saved the penalty, Fulham said, we're going to take a point here now. And they stopped really coming at us. Not that they were hurting us anyway, but it was 5-4-1, tuck in, let's take the point and go home. It's a clean sheet of Molyneux for them, and fair play to them. But in terms of other positives, I thought Neves was pretty tidy. I thought Dendoncker, again, unsung hero. He splits the fans. But now Dendonker's sitting in front of a back 4 with Neves. winning the ball back, recovering it. I thought Dendoncker was a solid 7 out of 10. Thoughts on Dendoncker?
Yeah, I agree. We were talking about
No.
signing Pelini, weren't we, for 20 million, but we had our own Pelini there on Saturday. And like you said, Ryan, when he plays in that position, he's a bit awkward, isn't he? He's not the most aesthetic on the eye, but he gets the job done, and he broke up a bit of play. Again, I think he did okay. He was good at Leeds, and I thought he was good again on Saturday. He does a job, doesn't he? He's one of those players. He's never going to be, glamorous or scoring worldies, but he does a job. And maybe missing Pelini, if Dendoncker plays like that, we're no better or worse off, are we? So I thought he did well again.
Well, let's not forget, he's a regular in the Belgium squad, a very talented Belgium squad. And when he plays there, he's played centre-back recently in a 3, and then he played holding. And the reason he plays as a holder is because he's a holding midfielder. So he gets I know he's a professional footballer. He should do better with the chances. He gets in good positions. He's just not a very good finisher. However, if you play a player to his strengths and do the job that he's good at, we're going to praise him. And I am more than happy for Dendoncker to be doing that when we've got multiple. I mean, does he get in the team when Nunes is here? I'm not, and Martinez fit. I'm not sure that he does, but playing him in his best position, he's been Mr. Consistent 7 out of 10 those first 2 games. Yes, he missed a chance at Leeds, but in terms of doing the job he's there to, break up the play, give it to a fullback or give it to one of the attacking midfielders, he's done the job fantastic. So yeah, credit to Dendoncker. We've done almost half an hour on the game. Now, I've got a feeling there's something else we want to talk about. Let's talk about the loan window. No, let's not talk about that. It looks like Matheus Nunes is going to sign for Wolves. And the group chats, social media, it has been absolutely crazy. I'm not going to. Where do we start? How are we doing this? Why is he coming to Wolves? What is this real? Tell me, I'm on the end of a massive practical joke here. We're talking off air before. There's 3 grown men with an age of well over 100 in total, and we're all giggling like this is ridiculous, guys. How? Have they gone, right, I've had enough of this now. Uncle George, get yourself in there, get things fixed. Knocker, Matheus Nunes, your take on if we sign this player?
Good for us.
Look at Knocker giggling.
He's gone.
Pep Guardiola said he's one of the best midfielders in the world. I mean, is he? I don't know, but that's certainly a hell of a compliment from a manager of that stature. So when we were linked with him, it was one of them that you don't even bother opening the article because it's never a million years coming to Wolves. So I said at the start of the window, I expected us to break even. I think something has happened which has opened the purse strings, and that has to be investment from somewhere, because the last sort of 5-6 windows, we made sure we broke even. We made sure we haven't spanked a load of money out on random players and not brought that back. We made sure that we've hit those targets. So for us to suddenly be bringing in the quality of players that we're bringing in, there has to be something that's gone on behind the scenes. And there's been talk of, does Neves go the other way? I don't think so. I don't think there's any way that we sign a player like Nunes unless there's guarantees that other good players are going to stay and potentially come in as well. So is he in the shop window for a year? I don't care if he is, to be honest, because if he comes in and does brilliantly for us and then he goes for 100 million in a year, then it's win-win for Wolves, isn't it? So, but the fact we've managed to get a player of that quality, I mean, I don't know if you saw the goal he scored for Sporting in his last game. It's an absolute rocket, and he's skillful, he's strong, he can beat players, he can score goals, he can create opportunities. It's for us to land a player like this, especially when a few days ago he told West Ham they weren't big enough for him to sign for them. It's coming to Wolves. It's just the most ridiculous sign. It's like when we signed Neves in the Championship, isn't it? It's a signing that should just never happen.
Yeah, Chris Powell will be on again soon, won't he? With Alex Bruce telling him about what a stepping stone we are. Now, Tyler, I mean, joking aside, I mean, I've read many articles. I've got one in front of me, trying to pull some bits out of it now. A really good article. Now, this guy is a complete midfielder. He's 6 foot, so he's quite big for a centre midfielder. He can pass, he scores, he tackles, he runs with the ball. We are really landing a complete footballer, and absolutely everything that we've not had in midfield. Do you like the build-up? Yeah, not everything we've not had in midfield since forever. Our team has been based on 2 holding midfielders, keep the ball. Good recovery, you know what I mean? Giving the ball, knocking it around, keeping possession. Now we've got someone that can take the whole team forward. Now, We talked about Kilman can take the ball forward, Collins, Matheus Nunes. That's going to leave space for Neves to create, and it's going to pull defenders and fullbacks in and create space for Neto, Podence, Jimenez, Gibbs, White. This is just a ridiculous signing, Tyler.
Yeah, I said to you, I don't know what's better, the fact we're actually signing him or just a salty reply from every journalist in the UK at the moment. I don't know what I'm getting more enjoyment from, to be honest. But
we'll talk about that in a minute.
We have waited a long time for, haven't we? I'd say probably 3 or 4 years. Neves and Martinho have been imperious, but we've all agreed we've gone a bit stale, haven't we? We needed that injection. And like Knocker said, it's 3 signings, but it's 3 quality signings. If you look at Collins, Guedes and Nunes, if someone had said to you at the end of the season you can have them 3 in your line, we probably wouldn't have believed them, would we? So I think it's incredible business, and it's just exactly what I've been looking for. And like I said a few minutes ago, I think it seems now Bruno's getting his wish, isn't he? He's getting what he wants. He's getting the wide, fast players. He's getting the dynamic midfielder. We're probably a striker away from what he's asked for. He's got the 2 centre-backs now. So now it's time for us, and it's time for Bruno to hopefully deliver on that promise of Bruno ball. But yeah, going back to Nunes, like Knocker said, it's one of those, you don't even bother opening it. You think, oh yeah, they're linking them to Wolves to get a bigger move elsewhere. And that might have been the case. There's obviously something happened. He's been very clear to say that he wants to go to a Champions League club. He wants to go to a top 6 club. As Uncle George works his magic, like Knocker says, we get a year, 2 years out of him, and then he goes on to bigger things. We said that about Neves, didn't we? And 5 years later, we've still got him. So I think we're a striker away now from, being really optimistic about, where Wolves can finish and what we can achieve again.
I think it's more than that as well. It's what it allows us to do. I mean, we can go to places like a Man United or probably not them because there wasn't us, and they. But
I was going to say, yeah,
a Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal. You can go away there and you can play, a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
With Nunes, Neves, and Martinho controlling your midfield. I think that's as good as anything other than the top 2. Really, I don't think anyone else has got 3 better midfielders. And then when you're at home or you're up against a team that you fancy you can beat, you go back to 4-2-3-1. It just allows us to change the whole dynamic. We've been so stationary for the last 5 years of what formation we can play. And don't get me wrong, it's been absolutely effective for us and it's got us into some great positions. But how many times have we said we need to switch this, we need to do something different to get a result, and we haven't been able to do that? Signing these players now, and if we get a centre forward in as well, we can play 2 or 3 formations that could completely change the dynamic of every game we're in. We can generally go into every game thinking we can win it.
It's a crazy situation, to be honest, and it won't feel real until he's holding that Wolves shirt or someone's peeping through the trees at Compton. But what I would say is not only that, this isn't just one of the best young midfielders in world football. This is a statement to put Wolves back on the map. This is a statement from Fosun saying, we're back in business, baby. From that first year when we had Patricio, Jean Martinho, Johnny, Jimenez, that first season was the transfer window then was phenomenal. Now, signing him, I would say this is probably going to be equal to that. It shows that Wolves are in business. And like you said, if he comes here a year or 2 and we double our money, then so be it. That's football. But better to have loved and lost. And if we're a stepping stone for some of the best young talent from the best manager in the world telling you he's one of the best players in the world, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to sign a 5-year contract. That's to protect him. That's to protect us. Yeah. He might go on to bigger and better things. But let's enjoy now. Let's enjoy the fact that we are signing a footballer that Liverpool fans... Why aren't we signing him? Man City fans, why aren't we signing him? Chelsea fans, why aren't we signing him? This is Wolverhampton Wanderers, and no disrespect to West Ham, big club, good run in Europe last year, European football, and a big team selling out 50, 60,000 every week. He's turned them down and coming to us. Don't get me wrong, the Mendes factor is huge, and the Portuguese factor is huge as well, because it was almost a little Portuguese sort of family setup there where people are coming, they'll settle straight in, international teammates, big club teammates in Portugal. It could be an absolutely glorious day for Wolves, and I cannot wait to see him play.
You mentioned, you mentioned a good thing about the 5 years. If you notice, all 3 of these players have signed 5-year contracts, and that tells you they don't want to be burnt again by a Traoré situation where someone leaves for nothing. you're getting players in their prime on 5-year deals.
Collins is a 5+1 as well.
You're never gonna lose out. He's
No.
money will double at the end of the season. So although Nocky's always talked about how business savvy they are, and that just proves it. These are 3 players that will come in, they improve us immediately, but once they improve themselves, their value doubles, trebles, and Wolves profit again, and then they'll go to the next one. So it's no lose, isn't it? Basically, it's a no lose situation.
You're absolutely bang on, because if he comes in, has a really good season, and then a City or a Liverpool want him, he's got 4 years left on his deal. So you're talking minimum double of the investment, aren't you? So I think it's an incredible piece of business. When we sign, you sign certain players, you think, yeah, he could do well, he might do all right. I just don't see any way this kid fails. He just looks that good.
Not at all.
I'm so excited about the signing.
I mean, we're all YouTube scouts, aren't we? And when, to my wife's annoyance, I've been looking at all these players who've been signing, and Nunes' showreel, getting the ball and spinning off, and just, I mean, you don't get many quick centre midfielders. He's 6 foot, leggy, and he just glides past people. It's just, honestly, I'm smiling just thinking about him playing for Wolves. It is ridiculous. So this guy is going to add a whole dimension to the team. If you've got 2 centre-backs that are happy to carry the ball 15, 20 yards, a centre midfielder that can carry the ball 20 or 30 yards, the difference that makes to the whole team of the wide forwards getting out, the fullbacks getting up, the space that's going to open up for us. As you said, Knocker, I would still probably call it against the top 3 teams, but everyone else, we can really be allowed now to play our own game and and let them worry about us. I think Neves has the potential to be a world-class footballer. He's in his position, he's fantastic. They're already talking about Nunes is a world-class footballer. It's obscene, the fact now that we could be going into games playing a 2-man midfield and one of Matinho, Nunes or Neves is a sub. It's just simply outrageous. It is. I mean, I think for the big away games, we'll play all 3, but to think only 2 of them are going to get in the team it's beyond my wildest football dreams. So, it's absolutely crazy. But I want to, I could read out his stats. His pressing stats are good. His ball retention's good. He's scoring goals. He's creating, and he's really good at finding through balls. Oh, and he's really accurate with crossfield passes. And he's joining Wolves. Okay.
You just wait till the first time he puts Swang through and he breaks the windows in Asda again.
Don't be like that. Something else that's really interested me. More amused than annoyed. It used to annoy me when national journalists used to have a swing at Wolves. It used to annoy me, but now I'm amused because I'm thinking we're really rattling people. And I was like, well, why are you being disrespectful about my football club? So I've got a few screenshots I want to talk about. James Horncastle, who writes to The Athletic for Italian football, yet more original scouting here. Wolves casually dropping €50 million on another player from Portugal. For context, if they were called Lupi or Wolverhampton Giavogi, or whatever you're saying, plus played in Italy, this would be most expensive signing of the summer in Serie A. Right Premier League, read Super League. Oh, James, boo-hoo. I mean, you're reading stuff like that. Again, there's a question to Martin Ziegler. I think he's a financial expert in football around. Someone was asking him, what do you think about these players? He said, signing, and he's like, about as good as Fabio Silva. They can't just help having a swipe at Wolves. So are they genuinely don't like George Mendes? Are we stepping on ground we shouldn't be in? Little Wolves know your place. What's the needle to Wolves?
I said to you, Ryder, since we spent the money on Fabio, we haven't spent a bean. We have been self-sufficient. Made a
profit the last 2 years after that.
Yeah, we've been a self-sufficient, well-run football club that's been in the Premier League for 4 years, 2 European adventures. Sorry, one obviously season. Why can't we spend £40 million on a player if we want to? We're self-sufficient. We're not doing an Everton. We're not spending billions. We're not doing a Man United, spending billions and getting worse. I just don't. I love to see it. I remember when Wolves were so irrelevant to anybody that we barely got any coverage, didn't we? So let's be honest, we're all having a bit of a laugh at it, and it's lovely to see. It
is. The one that was sort of a bit prickly the other day as well. I don't know if this guy was a West Ham fan. I don't even know his name, to be honest. It was a Sky Sports news reporter reading headlines in the morning talking about Matheus Nunes joining Wolves, and he went, "Oh yeah, he's choosing Birmingham over East London," and then sniggering with his colleague. I mean, it's just disrespect. First of all, Wolverhampton and Birmingham are two very different places, although they're in the West Midlands. But what's with the attitude? What is it? Why is that little sniggering digs knocker? Are we? Shouldn't we be here? Are we not knowing our place?
I think it's poor journalism more than anything else. It's a lack of. When you look at, Man United dropped 52 million on Fred. Arsenal spent 70 million on Pepe, and yet you don't hear a lot of criticism about that. I just think it's a lack of research. I mean, when Fosun come in, I think we were 17th, 18th, something daft like that in the Championship. We've been on the European tour. We've had back-to-back 7-play finishes. We've had an FA Cup semi-final. Our worst season was better than our best ever previous season in the Premier League. So whatever we're doing, that formula's working, isn't it? So why would we change that? And you touched on it earlier. You bring in someone like a Nunes and you say to him, well, look, we've got 6 or 7 Portuguese players. If you follow any of them on Instagram, they regularly have meals together. They have spent time together. They get their families around. You're creating a family atmosphere there. And it's got the backs up of a lot of people. And I think when you look at when Leicester won the Premier League, how many people came out and said it was terrible for English football because we want the elite to be the elite.
But all three of us were genuinely pleased. Not that we care about Leicester, but we were genuinely pleased because we love football and the underdog story sells better than anything else. It gives you hope and a dream that one day that could be you. It probably won't be, but that was fantastic for football. I'm like, I was so pleased that the big boys' nose have been put out of joint. It was great to see, and we need more of that.
But financially, for the Premier League, it wasn't great because they want to sell the brand as the Premier League being the best league in the world with the elite, the best elite teams in the world. And when Wolves come in and start signing a target from Liverpool and Man City, that it gets their backs up. They don't like it. So I think it's really poor journalism, and I think that sometimes just look at the situation before you comment on it. And if Nunes wants to come to Wolves, if he's here for 12 months and we double our money and he gets a bigger club, then good luck to him. But as far as I'm concerned, the more salt we get from others, the better. Because I'm with Chris. I remember when people were laughing in the Premier League, people were laughing at us when we got relegated to League One. No one wanted to touch us then, did they? And now we've become a team that's annoying some of the biggest clubs and some of the biggest journalists in the world. So
I think you both made a really good point in terms of research. It seems like a go-to thing. Portugal, Wolves, George Mendes. Oh, boring. It just seems an easy swipe to say, oh, it's Birmingham. An easy swipe just to have a dig.
How many Danish players have Brentford got?
I can't say that, mate. It's London. You can't say that.
Yeah, exactly. But they're the same as us. They just do it with Danish players instead of Portuguese players. And if they start doing well, you'll see the same sort of comments coming in. I just think it's pathetic.
It reflected as well. How many blue tick journalists did you see criticising Wolves for getting rid of Connor Cody? He's a great human and a great bloke, but he can't play in a back four. Well, Frank Lampard thinks he can. I don't think he can. Frank might be right and we might be wrong. But it's this disrespect then of like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, what we do, we're going to a back four, we're trying a new style of play, and that's what we're doing. That's the end of that. It's the lack of research and the easy dig. Just because Cody's a popular, nice bloke who's done really well for Wolves, you mustn't get rid of him if he's a nice bloke. It's just because it's a trendy thing to say. Here's a way to have a little slap down at Wolves. Don't get me wrong, it used to annoy me, and it did grind on me. But now I'm amused by it. I'm amused by cheap shots, easy dig, and I just like I've been tweeting earlier on. It gives you an opportunity just to make fun of them, and everyone piles on, and they just look really silly from the lack of research. But thanks for everyone.
Hang on with Cody because he was all over TalkSport. He was all over Sky Sports, and they're all talking about that didn't happen when Jota went to be going to a bigger club. It was a player who come in. We made a profit on him when we sold him. Connor Cody came in for what was it, $2.5 million?
Potentially $2 million from Huddersfield
for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. So, business-wise, all these players that we're bringing in, whether they're Portuguese or not, we're making a profit on them. Vinagre, we made a profit on him, and he barely got into the first team, did he? So. The system we use and what we employ is working for us perfectly now. And if journalists can't see that, then they're not doing their jobs properly, are they? Their job is to research what they're commenting on. And if they're not doing that, then they probably shouldn't be in the job.
You're going a bit crackly then, Knock. I don't know if you've got your headphones or your buds in, but they've gone a bit crackly. I don't know if you can still hear me. Just moving on now, when we've absolutely flown through the show. Hydrogen is God. Love the show, guys. If not discussed where is the investment suddenly appearing from, and where do these signings move the goalposts? That's perfectly brought into in terms of the spending spree investment. There's lots of rumours on Twitter, on group chats about some. There was a gentleman there on Saturday we hadn't seen before. People are putting two and two together. Is he from a Middle Eastern investment company? We don't know. There's nothing solid out there, but it certainly looks like the goalposts have moved, because we were talking yesterday, Tyler, about we were going to sign a midfielder from Metz and a South Korean centre forward. And that suddenly changed into signing a Benfica striker and signing one of the best young midfielders in the world. Something has changed. I don't know what, but whatever it is, I love it. I absolutely love it, in the words of Keegan. So something has changed somewhere, or Fosun had a meeting in London in terms of, and I don't know how, in terms of, it was, I think it was some kind of state government meeting in terms of investment in the UK. I don't know if you saw the picture of, I think it was Guo was there in London. I don't know if it, I don't know the details of it, to be honest. With that, with the gentleman who we believe from investment group at Molyneux on Saturday v Fulham, and Guo being at Molyneux, something's going on. We don't know what. There's been nothing said yet. There's nothing locally that's been mentioned about it. I know I've had sort of messages and texts to suggest otherwise, but that's just information from trusted sources. But I've had nothing solid at all. I believe something has happened somewhere, but I don't know what. But I'd love to get your take on, have Fosun suddenly had a change of heart and they're going for it? Are we now, are China heavily invested in the British market? Are Fosun the biggest player in the British market in terms of investment? So we're the flagship now, so we want to show Wolves has been success of what we can do. Love to get your take, guys.
Yeah, I'm not really clever enough to get involved in China and investment and politics and stuff, but I've got a bit of common sense. And like you said, Ryan, it looks like something's happened, hasn't it, the last week or two? We've got, like you said, we've gone from signing a 20-year-old from the French second league and a 3 million striker from Bordeaux to, being linked to Europe's elite again. So something's changed. Mendes has obviously been more visible. He's been at the club. Have they gone over Jeff and Scott's head and said, look, get George involved, something needs to change? I don't know.
Well, I like it when George is involved. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all speculating, aren't we? And but looking at the pictures you've seen and the meetings that have gone on, it seems there is some sort of fresh investment in the club. I think Knocker's always been right. It has been a self-sufficient model for the last 2 years, and that hasn't changed anything. But that must mean there's some money available somewhere. We've spent, 85, 90 million potentially if Nunes signed. So yeah,
I mean, just check my phone, see if he's signed.
Big numbers, but not ridiculous numbers. You like we said, we're signing it on 3 quality players where we're only going to make our money back handsome. So it's low risk. But yeah, we'd be a bit naive to think something hasn't changed in the last couple of weeks, where we're sort of flirting with Europe's elite players again, aren't we?
Okay.
Can you hear me now? I'm still crackling.
Yeah, got you now, mate. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can, mate. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think something's got to have happened. I mean, we spoke before about the last big sign we made was Fabio. That season, we broke even again because we had players going out the door. So the dynamic doesn't just suddenly change overnight unless something's come in. And I suspect there's an investor somewhere, and it might not be finalised yet. There could be non-disclosure agreements about knocking around somewhere that doesn't allow us to talk about it in the media as of yet. But you put some.
I mean, we're very much just want to clear for everybody. We're all talking about speculation. Rumours happen. You hear things on your WhatsApp group. None of us have solid information. We're just putting 2 and 2 together before anyone reads into it too deeply. Knocker.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and that's the key to it. We're guessing, aren't we? We're just 3 people talking about a football team, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when suddenly you go from the players we were linked with and you're signing, top quality European players, then something's gone on. I mean, it could be.
Let me just jump in, Knocker. Nightwish Army UK has said Bruno has nicked Jeff's credit card. It certainly feels like that. Sorry, Knocker.
Yeah, but no, I just think that when something like this changes as dramatically as it has, there's got to be something going on. I mean, it could be a case of the Chinese government of loosening the purse strings a bit and allowing foreign investment. I haven't heard anything about that, so potentially not. But I suspect there's an investor somewhere, and I hope there is, because if we can get in another quality centre forward now, then it's only going to benefit us, isn't it?
It certainly is. Something I want to sort of, when we've got some time to do it as well, is really, I want to give some credit to Wolves and Fosun for being a little bit different in their approach. It's been a difficult few years for the whole planet, for businesses, unless you've won a contract from the government somewhere. Most people have struggled. Businesses have struggled. It's been hard. So understandably, while Fosun's empire has struggled, it's understandable they might have sort of tightened up and been self-sufficient. And to a degree, us three, as long as the money was invested wisely, we were all happy with the self-sufficient model. If it meant Premier League football and you were there or thereabouts and you were spending wisely, I think we'd have all taken that. However, at the very start of this journey with Fosun, George Mendes, and then eventually getting the right manager in Nuno at the time, the relationship with Gestifew has been nothing short of magnificent. Wolves have come up with an angle. They've bought part of a football agency. They've partnered with an agent to do the most of their business. And because of that, Wolves are now back on the map. And the salt from the opposing teams, fans, journalists, it's great. But you have to give credit that Wolves have found an angle, a legal angle. You're allowed to part with anybody. Some clubs have big relationships with all kinds of agents. We have a relationship, and business works on relationships. It's if you've got a regular buyer and you go out for a meal or whatever, and you have nights out, business is built on relationships and consistency. And Wolves have built a relationship with George Mendes. And why wouldn't we? Look at the success it's given at Wolves. Look at the calibre of player. He's an agent. He earns some. I've no interest in how much he earns from any deal. I'm interested in the success of my football club. Wolves have found an angle. They're using it. They're using it to benefit the football club, and therefore it's benefiting us three and every other Wolves fan. Credit to Fosun, credit to Wolves, because without the relationship with Mendes, there is no way we'd be here now.
But that's why it's so frustrating not frustrating, but so strange when you get so much of a salty approach from journalists. Because you look at Barcelona, what are they, 300-400 million in debt? Man United, 300 million in debt.
Barcelona, we're $1 billion in debt at the start of the season.
$1 billion in debt. You've got Everton, who only survived financial fair play because they found a loophole. We're in the black. We're comfortable. We're self-sufficient. We spend money that we can afford to spend, and yet we still get abused for the way the football clubs run in terms of signings. I just find it bizarre.
Jealousy is a strange thing, Knocker, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Tyler, your take on George?
You can see what I've called myself today. You know, when he pulls a rabbit out of the hat.
This isn't a rabbit, mate. Yeah. He's pulled a Bugatti Veyron out of his hat. All right, and parked it on my drive. That's how I feel this morning.
Yeah, I think we enjoy it while we can, don't we? You know me, I'm always seen as everyone's been a bit glass half empty. Let's enjoy it while we can. Let's keep benefiting from it. And as long as the model keeps working, you know, we're way back with Jota, with Neto, you know, the players we bought cheap, and we're never going to lose out. So you both talked about business, and it is pure business. It's working on the football pitch because we're signing quality, but they're protecting themselves as a business because their assets are going to be worth a lot more in the future. I mean, it sounds quite simple, doesn't it? It makes you wonder why other football clubs aren't doing it, but let's enjoy it while we can.
Absolutely enjoying it while we can. This show has absolutely flown by. So, I mean, we've literally got 2 minutes left, so we need to move on now. Praising Fosun, praising George Mendes. What a show. What a football club.
Can we get back to normal next week, please?
Here we are. Well, we've got Spurs the weekend. So Wolves travel to Spurs, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. Spurs weren't great against Chelsea, but I've got to say, Chelsea were really good. They outnumbered them in midfield. Spurs did look like they could be got at. However, you must remember, Spurs have got the likes of Kane, Son. There'll be some world-class players playing for Tottenham Hotspur. This is a massive task. For me, the weekend, boys, I moved back to a 4-3-3. I have three centre midfielders here. I'm not going to go 4-3-2-1. I want to tighten because they play with two in the middle. I want to outnumber in the middle of the park and try and break quickly to get at them like Chelsea did. Yes, we're not Chelsea, but that will be my plan. Quick take on the game, Knocker.
Yeah, I'll go 4-3-3 as well. The problem you're going to have is if we determine to get Gibbs White to sign a new contract, he's probably going to play, isn't he? So
great point.
Who comes out? Is it Hwang or is it Podence? I don't see Neto dropping out, but I'd absolutely go 4-3-3. I think Spurs are a good team. Conte's made some really good signings. It's going to be a really difficult game for us.
Tyler?
I think it's just nice to have some options, isn't it? Like you said, we can talk about a formation. We can talk about dropping players and bringing players in. So that's a first. I'm not that worried. I genuinely think we're better in these sorts of games. We get given time to play. We get given space. We get given, the freedom to play. So don't see any reason why we don't go there with a level of confidence. I'd much rather play against a team like Spurs away than someone that parks the bus and we have to break through them. So if we can utilise the space with Neto, Guedes, Podence, there'll be opportunities for us. It's just if we can take them.
Absolutely. It's certainly going to be a game, though. If we don't take chances, we'll probably lose. I'm not sure if Wolves will get a clean sheet this weekend with their firepower. I'd like to be wrong, but I certainly think they'll give us as many chances as we've had in the last two games in total. To be honest, I think they'll want to be desperate to win. It was a hearty comeback at Chelsea. They probably didn't deserve it, but that's football. Quick prediction on the score then, and the first scorer before we end the show for this week. George Mendes fan club.
I'm going to go 1-1, and I'm going to go Neves.
Get in there, Nocky.
3-1 Spurs. I think we'll take the lead as well. I think Podence.
Well, the last time we took the lead in Spurs and lost, someone threw a pie in my face, and I was there that day with you two. We'll talk about that another day. I'm going to go with an optimistic 1-1, and I'm going to go with Pedro Neto opening his account. This has been episode 36 of the Wolves Report. You can watch us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you to Mark Knock and Chris Tyler. Today we've had an exclusive. Chris Tyler has smiled through the whole show and hardly been negative at all. This is absolute world-breaking news. I'm Ryan Lester. This has been the Wolves Report. Up the Wolves.